The call came from my daughter Emma at 6:23 p.m. on a Friday. "Mom, it happened again. They told me there wasn't enough room for me. Please come pick me up." My hands trembled as I read it. The Hamptons had invited her to their lakehouse for the weekend, her first real invitation from Jessica, but revoked it the moment she arrived, leaving her standing there with her overnight bag while everyone else piled into their boats. Another day of my 13-year-old daughter being humiliated because Jessica Hampton and her crew decided we didn't belong in Cedar Falls. I stared out the window of our rental duplex on Maple Street, watching the neighbors load their boats for weekend trips to their own lake houses. Jessica Hampton was always the loudest about her family's pristine waterfront property. Every weekend, I watched those families head to their summer retreats, boat after gleaming boat. And every weekend, I listened to Jessica's mother Diane trash families like ours who couldn't afford such luxuries. If only they knew. But Emma only knew I was a doctor. She had no idea about the scale of what I'd built. I'd kept everything simple, quiet, normal. Just mom and daughter starting fresh after the divorce. No designer clothes, no fancy car, no bragging about my practice. I believed staying under the radar would give Emma a real shot at making friends. I was so wrong. But what they didn't realize was that the clinic they frequented most was mine. Quick favor before we move on. Over 90% of people watching right now haven't subscribed yet. If you're enjoying this story, tap that like button and hit subscribe. It's completely free and it helps this channel reach more amazing listeners like you. Already subscribed? You're the best. Thank you so much. Now, let's get back to it. Diane Hampton ruled Cedar Falls Middle School like a queen. 47 years old, plastic surgery from head to toe, carrying a different designer handbag each day. She drove a white Range Rover and made sure everyone knew their family's net worth down to the dollar. Her daughter Jessica was a carbon copy, pretty, mean, and absolutely convinced she was better than everyone else. The first time I met Diane was at the school pickup in September. I'd just finished running errands, no makeup, carrying my old canvas tote bag and my worn jeans. Emma had been so excited about the lake house invitation. "Oh, you must be the family over at the apartments," Diane said, looking me up and down like I was something stuck to her shoe. "Maple Street, right? Such a transitional neighborhood." The other mothers giggled. Brittany Walsh, her skin still tight from a recent facelift, chimed in. "We were just wondering who took over the Hendersons' old place. Seems like it changes hands every few months." "Well," Diane continued, adjusting her Hermes bag with manicured nails, "I'm sure you'll fit right in. We're very welcoming to all types here." All types, like I was some charity case. I could have ended this conversation right then and there. One phone call to my clinic manager, one mention of sterling aesthetics, and Diane's smug smile would have crumbled. But something held me back. "What does your husband do?" asked Brittany Walsh, leaning forward eagerly. "I'm divorced," I said simply. The silence was deafening. Diane's smile turned sharp as a knife. "Oh my, that must be challenging financially. I mean, especially in a town like this where everything is so expensive." "We manage," I replied. "I'm sure you do, sweetie. Being a single mom must be so tough. Though I have to say, that's ambitious of you, trying to move up here." Ambitious. Like I was pretending to be something I wasn't. But soon they'd learn exactly what I was pretending not to be. The exclusion started immediately. Birthday party invitations that never came. Sleepovers Emma heard about but wasn't invited to. Group texts about school events that somehow skipped my number. But it was worse than simple exclusion. It was systematic destruction. The first incident happened during lunch. Emma came home with her sandwich untouched, eyes red from crying. "What happened, baby?" "Jessica and her friends sat at my table," Emma whispered. "They said I smelled like discount stores. Then they moved to another table and told everyone not to sit with me because being poor might be contagious." I felt rage surge through my chest like molten metal. My hands clenched so hard my nails drew blood. "I ate alone again." Emma's voice cracked. Mrs. Rodriguez saw me crying and asked if I was okay. But what could I say? That my classmates think I'm dirty because we rent our duplex. The heat in my chest was instant. It wasn't sadness anymore. It was fury. Fury that a 13-year-old had to carry this kind of shame. Fury that I'd stood there smiling at those mothers when all I wanted to do was tear their perfect little circle apart. The fifth incident was perhaps the cruelest. Emma came home clutching a glittery invitation, her face brighter than I'd seen it in months. "Mom, look! Madison invited me to her birthday party at the country club. She said she felt bad about everything and wanted to start over." I should have known it was too good to be true. The party was on Saturday afternoon, and Emma spent the entire morning getting ready, carefully wrapping the gift we'd chosen together, a beautiful art set that cost more than I usually spent, but seeing her excited made it worth every penny. 30 minutes later, my phone rang. "Mom?" Emma's voice was thick with tears. "Can you pick me up? There's no party. The security guard said there's no Walsh event today. Madison and Jessica are inside with their real friends watching me through the window." My hands shook as I drove to get her. They had planned this elaborate humiliation, knowing exactly how desperately my daughter wanted to belong. I knelt beside her in our duplex entryway, watching my daughter crumble before my eyes. The beautiful gift bag lay forgotten by the door. She'd stopped eating breakfast weeks ago. Dark circles shadowed her eyes like bruises. She flinched when her phone buzzed with what I now knew were group chat notifications about her humiliation. "Did anyone see you waiting there alone?" "Yeah, but—" Emma looked at the floor, her voice barely a whisper. "The country club has security cameras. Madison posted a video of me standing outside looking confused. It's probably on every social media platform by now." That night I held her as she sobbed into my shoulder. Her ribs felt sharp under my hands. She'd lost weight. "Mom, I miss our old neighborhood. I know you have work here, but I can't. I can't do this anymore." As I held my crying daughter, I felt something shift inside me. I'd tried to protect her by hiding who we really were. Instead, I'd exposed her to a cruelty I had the power to stop. The next incident shattered something inside me. Emma walked into our duplex with mud stains on her uniform and tears streaming down her face, but this time she was shaking. "Emma, what happened?" "They cornered me after school, Jessica, Madison, and Chloe. They said—" She gulped air between words. "They said, your mom probably works at McDonald's because that's all divorced women can do. They said they were protecting the school by making sure everyone knew what we really were." My vision went white with fury. These children, these cruel, entitled children, were destroying my daughter's spirit with lies while I held patents on procedures that kept their mothers looking decades younger. And then Jessica pushed me down and said, "Stay down where you belong." Emma's voice was barely a whisper. "Mom, I wanted to fight back, but I didn't know how. What if she's right? What if we don't belong here?" That night, Emma asked if we could move again. I held her as she cried herself to sleep, and I made a decision. Tomorrow, everything would change. Meanwhile, Diane's campaign against us intensified with every passing day. It started with the Facebook group. I only learned about it when another mother, Sarah Richards, accidentally sent me a screenshot meant for someone else. The group was called Cedar Falls Mom Circle and had 42 members. I wasn't one of them. The messages were surgical in their cruelty. "Diane, just a reminder about Madison's pool party this weekend. Please confirm RSVP so I can plan catering." "Brittany, should I ask about the new family?" "What, the apartment folks? Let's keep this intimate." "You understand?" More screenshots trickled in from guilty mothers. Diane was orchestrating a social siege. "Diane, I am concerned about some families at school. We need to protect our children's values." "Brittany, what do you mean?" "Some people move to neighborhoods they can't afford, hoping to social climb. It sends the wrong message to our kids about earning your place. The coffee shop encounters became Diane's personal theater. Every Tuesday, she held court at the Starbucks next to school, timing her arrival perfectly with mine. "Oh, Victoria," she'd call out loudly, "still driving that little Honda, so practical of you." Richard says luxury cars are for people who prioritize differently. Her audience would giggle on cue. "You know, we should really have you over sometime. Our lake house is probably too modern. You might feel uncomfortable with all the smart features, but Richard's always saying we should be giving to those less fortunate." Each word was chosen to cut, to establish hierarchy, to remind everyone listening exactly where I stood in her world. The cruelest part was how she recruited allies. Diane had a gift for making other mothers complicit in her cruelty by framing it as protection. "I'm worried about Emma," she told Jennifer Williams at pickup loud enough for me to hear. "Poor thing seems so withdrawn. It must be hard when your mother can't provide the same stability as other families." Jennifer nodded sympathetically, shooting me pitying glances. "Children need consistency," Diane continued. "When parents are struggling financially, kids always suffer. Maybe Emma would benefit from spending time with more stable families. Like charity work, but social." She was painting herself as Emma's savior while using pity as a weapon. And every single day I watched the other families plan their lake house weekends, while Diane stood 20 feet away, trashing single mothers. "That lifestyle is so unstable for children," she announced to anyone within earshot. "Divorce always leaves scars, no proper support system. Probably some minimum wage job just trying to get by." Every day I watched those families load their boats and plan their parties. And every day I listened to Diane trash single motherhood like it was some moral failing. I'd stand at my duplex window, coffee in hand, watching the preparations while Diane's voice carried across the parking lot. "Richard says divorced women just move from man to man. Selfish, really. Some people don't understand that children need stability." The irony was exquisite torture. She was insulting my choice to prioritize my daughter's well-being, our independence, our strength, while simultaneously depending on my expertise to maintain her artificial perfection. One morning, I was on a video call reviewing the quarterly reports from my clinic locations when Diane appeared on the sidewalk with 3 other mothers, gesturing dismissively toward our duplex. "The constant instability is inconsiderate," she declared. "And the example it sets. Madison's developed anxiety just thinking about divorce affecting her friends. Richard's thinking about petitioning the school board about family stability requirements." I could have walked outside right then and introduced myself as Dr. Sterling. Could have mentioned that the so-called unstable single mother owned the clinic where she got her monthly treatments. But watching Diane dig her own grave was sweeter than any comeback I could have planned. The next morning, I got the call from school. There had been another incident. Emma was in the counselor's office, and I needed to come immediately. I was in the middle of a conference call with cosmetic surgeons from my Beverly Hills location when my phone rang. "Dr. Sterling," Emma's school called. "Emergency." I apologized to the board-certified specialists who joined to discuss my latest protocol innovations, grabbed my keys, and headed straight to Cedar Falls Middle School. I didn't have time to change. I was still wearing the tailored black suit and diamond earrings I'd chosen for the video conference. 5 mothers lingered by the school entrance, designer handbags dangling from their arms. Diane was planted in front of her white Range Rover, talking with sweeping gestures like she owned the place. Then my Bentley rolled up to the curb. Every conversation stopped. The contrast was subtle but immediate. Their cars, which probably felt expensive to them, suddenly looked exactly like what they were: suburban luxury for people trying too hard. I stepped out and Diane's face registered confusion. "Well," she said, her voice higher than usual, "I suppose even renters can afford to hire a ride for special occasions." But her confidence was cracking. The other mothers stared at my car and attire with barely hidden uncertainty. "Diane," I said calmly, "how lovely to see you." Before she could respond, 9-year-old Tyler Richards broke away from a group of kids and pointed at my car. "Whoa, Mom, look at that car. She has her own chauffeur?" His mother, Sarah, was already staring. "Tyler, don't point," she said automatically, then looked at me more carefully. "Wait, are you, oh my God, you're Dr. Victoria Sterling from Sterling Aesthetics." The words hit the group like a bomb. Margaret gasped out loud. "You're the Dr. Sterling who developed the Sterling Protocol." A teenager walking by with friends stopped dead. "Did she say Dr. Sterling? My mom's been on the waiting list for 2 years. She only takes the most exclusive clients." Jennifer Williams was frantically Googling on her phone. "Oh my God, Victoria Sterling. Forbes calls her the pioneer of revolutionary anti-aging procedures. 3-year waiting list for consultations." Diane's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. "That's impossible," Diane whispered. "You're living in that little duplex on Maple Street." "Temporarily," I said with a gentle smile. "When you own multiple clinic locations, you tend to stay where your oversight is needed most." I could have humiliated her then and there, but I didn't need to. The truth was doing that all by itself. The silence was deafening. Every mother in that circle was recalculating everything they thought they knew. "The Sterling Aesthetics downtown," Margaret whispered. "The one with the 6-month waiting list." "Every procedure personally designed by me," I confirmed. "From the regenerative treatments to the Sterling Protocol that's revolutionized age reversal. I've been overseeing the local clinic personally for 3 months now." Jessica Hampton had appeared at her mother's side and was staring at me in horror. The same girl who'd once sneered at Emma as poor kid now stood frozen beside her mother, watching her empire crumble. "Mom," Jessica whispered urgently, tugging Diane's sleeve. "Mom, that's Emma's mom. We were really mean to Emma." Diane finally spoke. "You could have mentioned you owned a plastic surgery clinic." I tilted my head. "Could I?" "Because when Emma told Jessica her mom was a doctor, your daughter said poor people couldn't afford real medical school." The other mothers shifted uncomfortably. Their logo handbags and black SUVs, which had felt like symbols of success, now looked exactly like what they were: middle-tier luxury for people still worried about impressing their neighbors. "I wanted Emma to have a normal childhood," I continued. "I thought if we kept things simple, she could make friends based on who she is, not what I do. I was naive to think that was possible in a place where children judge each other by their parents' appointment schedules." Sarah Richards stepped forward eagerly. "Dr. Sterling, I don't suppose you'd consider taking new patients. We've been trying to get consultations for years." I smiled politely. "I'll have my practice manager send some information. Though I should mention the Sterling Protocol requires quite extensive screening for candidate suitability." Diane's face went white as she realized what I was saying. The very procedures she'd been getting for months to maintain her artificial youth came from the woman she'd been tormenting. "And Diane," I added just loud enough for everyone to hear, "I believe you have a standing appointment next Tuesday for your monthly maintenance session. We'll need to discuss some protocol adjustments." Diane's eyes widened, and she started blinking fast. Her calm face was gone. "That's not possible." "You might want to check your own file," I said. "Client number 4A7B. You've been getting our Sterling Protocol treatments every month for the past 1.5 years, and we've had long talks about how to keep your results while aging naturally." Everyone gasped out loud. "Don't worry," I said smoothly, keeping my voice calm. "I always finish my clients' treatment plans, but let's just say someone hasn't been following my post-care instructions very well." Sometimes the universe has a sense of humor. Sometimes it just has perfect timing. Diane's legs looked unsteady. The woman who had spent months establishing social hierarchies based on appearance had just learned that her appearance depended entirely on the person she'd placed at the bottom of her pyramid. Just then, Emma emerged from the school building with her counselor. My daughter had been crying, but when she saw me, she straightened her shoulders with quiet dignity. "Ready to go home, sweetheart?" I asked, extending my hand. Emma walked past the group of mothers without a word and took my hand. As we reached the Bentley, she looked up at me with those serious blue eyes. "Mom, are you famous or something?" "No, baby," I replied, helping her into the passenger seat. "I just help people feel beautiful." The transformation was swift and complete. Within days, Emma's bullies became her biggest fans. The same kids who had mocked her for living in a rental were now bragging about knowing the famous doctor's daughter. But the real change was in Emma herself. She walked taller, spoke with confidence, and when Jessica tried one last cruel comment, Emma simply said, "My mom helps important people look their best." What does your mom do other than judge other people? 6 months later, we bought our permanent home on Hillcrest Drive. Emma's bedroom had its own balcony overlooking the valley, and she spent hours there reading, finally at peace in a space that was truly ours. The Hamptons moved away 2 months after Diane's treatments were discontinued. Apparently, watching 18 months of artificial enhancement fade away made their social standing quite challenging. Diane never apologized. Not to me, not to Emma. As I tucked Emma into bed one night in our beautiful new home, she looked up at me with those wise eyes and asked, "Mom, why didn't you tell them who you were from the beginning?" I thought about it, watching the last light of sunset paint the walls of her room. From her balcony, the duplex units looked exactly like what they were, temporary stops for people building something better. Because I wanted you to see who people really are when they think you have nothing to offer them. And I wanted you to learn that your worth has nothing to do with their opinions. And now I know. Now you know that the most important thing you can build is your own character. Everything else is just enhancement. She smiled and closed her eyes. Safe in a home built not just on unconditional love, but on the quiet confidence that comes from knowing your true worth. Sometimes the best revenge isn't cruel or dramatic. Sometimes it's simply living so authentically that other people's artificial facades become irrelevant. The beauty we create isn't always about hiding flaws. Sometimes it's about revealing what was always there underneath.